The bombing of Singapore was an attack on 8 December 1941 by 17 G3M Nell bombers of Mihoro Air Group, Imperial Japanese Navy, flying from Thu Dau Mot in southern Indochina. The attack began at around 0430, shortly after Japanese forces landed on Kota Bharu, Malaya. It was the first knowledge the Singapore population had that war had broken out in the Far East. Background: the attack on Singapore was assigned to 34 bombers of G3M Air Group and 31 bombers of Mihoro Air Group. The targets were RAF Tenggara, RAF Seletar, Sambuang Naval Base and Keppel Harbour. 6 squadrons from both air groups took off from southern Indochina on the night of 7 December 1941. However, bad weather conditions were encountered while over the South China Sea. Thick clouds offered poor visibility for the pilots, while rough winds caused most of the formations to become separated. After several attempts to regroup failed, Lieutenant Commander Nishi Nakanishi, wing commander of G3M Air Group, ordered them to abort mission and return to base, thereby reducing the impact of a much heavier raid. Only 17 G3M bombers of Mihoro Air Group reached Singapore on schedule, unobstructed by bad weather. The attack. The Japanese formation was detected by a radar station in Mersing, Malaya, almost an hour before they reached Singapore. 3 Brewster Buffalo fighters of No. 453 Squadron RAF were on standby at RAF Sambuang. However, Flight Lieutenant Tim Vigor's request to scramble and intercept the Japanese bombers was denied. Air Chief Marshal Robert Brooke Popham feared that the anti-aircraft batteries would fire on the friendly fighters. Despite Vigors being an experienced night fighter in the Battle of Britain, he was supplemented by the belief that the Buffalo fighter was only suited for daylight fighting and could not be used at night. Paradoxically, there were 12 Bristol Blenheim Mark F night fighters of No. 27 Squadron RAF stationed in Sungai Petani, Malaya, but were being used as ground attack aircraft. The streets were still brightly lit despite air raid sirens going off at 0400, allowing pilot navigators to locate their targets without difficulty. Air raid precautions headquarters was not even manned, and there was no blackout as police and power station officials could not find the employee who had the key to the switch. When the bombers began their attack at 0430, Allied anti-aircraft guns immediately opened fire. The battleship Prince of Wales and battlecruiser Repulse also responded, but no aircraft was shot down. A formation of 9 bombers flew over without releasing the bombs to draw the searchlights and anti-aircraft guns away from the other group. They were flying at 12,000 feet, while the second formation was at 4,000 feet. Aftermath: the raiders passed. Signal was sent out at 0500. The bombers succeeded in bombing the airfields at Seletar and Tenggara, damaging 3 Bristol Blenheim bombers of No. 34 Squadron RAF. A number of bombs also fell on Raffles Place. 61 people were killed and more than 700 were injured. Most of the casualties were troops of the 2nd Gurkha Rifles, 11th Indian Infantry Division. The Japanese bombers all returned safely to Thu Dau Mot. Though the bombing caused only minor damage to the airfields, it stunned the British Far East Command. Despite intelligence reports of Japanese aircraft performance in the Second Sino-Japanese War, the command did not believe Japan's air forces were capable of striking Singapore from airfields more than 600 miles away in Indochina. The raid came as a surprise to Lieutenant General Arthur Percival, who hardly expected the Japanese to have any very long-range aircraft. Quote, In the days that followed, Singapore enjoyed a considerable respite from air raids, as the Japanese focused their attacks on key aerodromes and Allied positions in northern Malaya. The next raid on the island occurred on the night of 17 December 1941, which in itself was merely a minor attack on RAF Tengar by two Japanese Ki-21s. Only on the night of 29-30 December did nightly raids resume in earnest on Singapore City. In contrast, daylight raids commenced much later, on the 12th of January 1942, following the fall of Kuala Lumpur to the Japanese the previous day and the shifting of the bulk of the IJAAF to southern Malaya.